really know what's going on over there other than everybody's dumb.
The instant you step out of line, you say something that they don't like and they don't like you personally, they're going to use all those pre-existing laws and they're going to use it on you.
Woman exposed her male genitalia to women and underage girls. That's what happened.
It's pure propaganda and it's super cringe, by the way. It's super cringe.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Butler. He is Eric Chapados. If you were confused by that, then that's too bad. Welcome to
At least you're paying
Opinions.
attention.
Yeah, you should be paying attention to know that that's a problem. It's Saturday. It's actually Sunday. March Madness is in full effect. People are committing digital blackface all over the world. UnAuthorizedOpinions.com or UOPod.com. We're on Parler, we're on Getter, we're on Twitter and YouTube and Twitch. And if you're listening, of course, to all the new places we're popping up: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and now Amazon Podcasts. As of this week, for some reason, Amazon reached out to us. I'd like to know how they got our information, Eric, but that's neither here nor there. How are you doing?
Oh, no complaints. The weather here in Arizona is amazing. This is the price of entry right here, because in like a month it's going to be scorching hot. It's going to be uninhabitable until for the better part of 4 months. But right now it's absolutely beautiful. There's like one thing that is actually, you know what? I take that back. I do have a complaint because it's a spring training baseball and these little baseball stadiums are everywhere and they keep shutting down the roads to and from my house. It's making it incredibly tough to get home after work and go grocery shopping. So that is my one complaint. But other than that, not too bad. And I am excited to go to the East Coast this week.
Well, I believe in Arizona, that's what, Grapefruit League is the spring training it's called.
I don't know, bro, but it's the Texas Rangers and Kansas City Royals are like I can see it from outside my window.
Yeah, so they go to Florida for half of the league and then Arizona for the other half of the league. That sounds like an opportunity to make content to me, Eric, but who am I?
You know what? You are right. You are correct about that, but I don't want to talk about why that hasn't happened.
Should they be kneeling? Should there be Pride Days? These are questions that you could be asking. What CNN is asking, however, Eric, is have you been committing digital blackface? And sadly, what they're talking about is, using a black meme or GIF online to express yourself is as bad as people, replacing black people in a performance of some kind by pretending to be them. That's what that would mean to me. It's hard to take this seriously as to not be a joke on its surface. So let's read a bit about it.
Well, hang on before you start reading, just really quickly. Yep. I am under the impression that this is just when you sent me this article earlier today. The first thing I did was look at the date because we did this already. It was a handful of years ago we saw this article, right? Yeah. Am I gonna have to find? I mean,
you're gonna have to do some digging while I'm reading, I think.
Okay, all right, go for it.
Thank you. So maybe you shared the viral video of Kimberly Sweet Brown Wilkins telling a reporter after narrowly escaping apartment fire, "Ain't nobody got time for that," as we all recall that one. Perhaps you posted that meme of supermodel Tyra Banks exploding in anger on America's Next Top Model. I was rooting for you. We're all rooting for you. Or maybe even Michael Jordan crying, one of my favorites. And or RuPaul drag queen declaring, what does that say? I don't even know.
Girl.
Okay, I thought it was an I for a second. I was like, Gurry. What? Nobody's sharing that one. CNN just had to show their support for transvestites, I guess.
Antoine Dodson too.
That's a good one. Now, yeah. If you're black and you shared such images online, you get a pass. But if you're white, you may have inadvertently perpetrated one of the most insidious forms of contemporary racism. So notice only white. I find that interesting. If you're black, you get a pass. Nobody else is mentioned, but But if you're Native American, no, they don't. They don't say that. You may be wearing digital blackface.
This is crazy.
What is digital blackface, Eric? Why don't you tell us?
It's completely made up by this weirdo establishment. It's nothing. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to make a joke now, right? We saw, and this is, maybe not apples to apples, but Lil Nas X a week or two ago who made a joke about the Transformers. So it's basically eliminating your ability to joke and laugh and have fun. That's all
this is. And we'll read on, but this is part of my ever-growing theory that this is an attempt to underhandedly or backhandedly take black people out of culture. So now all of a sudden, let's go by American statistics. You have over 60% of these people using memes of a race that isn't theirs. Oh my God. And now all of a sudden you're eliminating 60% of people from using memes for a race that isn't theirs, thus not including them in culture and banter.
But nothing about woman face. Nothing about a man pretending to be a woman.
No, you're allowed to use drag queens just if you share the same skin color as them, which is, of course, insanity that we didn't believe in until 10 minutes ago. What are you sending me here, bud?
It's just an old I knew this, I did a little research while you were reading, and you can see some from 2020, some articles from 2021. So
2020.
Yeah.
So they're just circling the wagons back around, eh?
Exactly.
Digital blackface is a practice where white people, you don't have to capitalize white. I'm sorry. I know that the
you noticed. Because we had that discussion about the equestrian, and they weren't capitalizing. They weren't capitalizing the W in white, and I totally forgot about that. But hey, I'm all for the equality. Is it equity, equality? Whatever.
It's really odd for this person to be, calling memes blackface, but then going out of their way to capitalize white when their Associated Press only says you have to do it for black. I choose to do it for none of them because it's a color and therefore does not need to be capitalized. So on co-opting online expressions of black imagery, slang, catchphrases, or culture to convey comic relief or express emotions. Unbelievable. These expressions, what one commentator calls racialized reactions. This is so stupid. And the only reason I want everybody to know, our growing audience of millions and trillions, I want everyone to know that the reason why we share this stuff is not because it deserves to be shared. It's because the normies, as it were, need to know this type of stuff exists. Because, especially pro-trans activists will say that, nobody is trying to convert children, or nobody's trying to do this and that, and nobody's pushing it on you. It's just the right-wing media pretending that it's being pushed because they want to fearmonger. We show this sort of stuff so that this does happen. CNN's a giant company, especially online. CNN and Fox put out the most articles of anyone I know because I read them every day. Whereas websites like Yahoo or MSN, all they do is aggregate. So they put out a lot of stuff, but it's not their own stuff. CNN and Fox are like the number one written content on the American online media. And a lot of the time, CNN is pretty straight shooting in their writing. Of course, the topics and the angles are inherently biased, as everybody's is. But for their written content, you should take their written content versus their TV content 99 out of 100 times.
Can I just mention
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, well, I was gonna say, like you said about the trans activists and like how it's not really happening, and we're showing that this is actually happening, right? We can go back to just last week with the hockey thing, and one of the hockey reporters it's not forcing you to adopt an ideology, and it's like that's literally exactly what they're forcing you to do. I'm getting off track here. The cake baker, all this stuff, they are 100% forcing you to adopt their ideology. That's literally exactly what it is. He says that's not the case, and just by him saying that is enough to make it true. That's what they do. Is just by it coming out of their mouth, their brain is enough to make it true. It doesn't get questioned.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out for our viewers on Getter that it's constantly messing up. I don't know what's wrong with it. So switch on over to YouTube or Twitch or Twitter if you're having trouble. So we're sharing it to you to show you that this stuff does exist and it comes from gigantic outlets. So digital blackface involves, they're saying, this isn't me, white people play acting at being black, says Lauren Michelle Jackson, an author and cultural critic. So cultural critic is not a real job. I just like to throw that out there. In an essay for Teen Vogue. So they're pushing it on children. Teen Vogue is an extremely woke magazine for kids. Probably just a website now. Probably 7 people a day buy it across the continental US. And it used to be, like Tiger Beat or something that they just push celebrities on children. They had to take the turn like Time Magazine and so many outlets, Rolling Stone, once Trump became in office, because the powers to be, they turn that switch, that knob up to 11, where it's like propagandize, and they had to turn it up. So that's what they are. Jackson
They
says
turned
the
that
internet
thing up to 35. They turned it past 11, bro.
She says the internet thrives on white people laughing at exaggerated displays of blackness, reflecting a tendency among some to see black people as walking hyperbole. No, I don't know anybody who's ever said that. I don't know any one of my friends who are white that has ever sent a meme, and the sentiment was about the person being black. It was about what the meme means. So when you send a Kermit the Frog sipping the tea, it's not about the fact that he is a Muppet, actually. It is about the fact that he's, presenting the idea that they're spreading gossip. So you can go as far as that. You can think of any white person meme. You can think of an Arnold Schwarzenegger meme. You can think of, there's so many memes. I mean,
The
there's
ancient
billions of
alien,
Ancient Aliens guy
yeah.
has a good one. He's Greek. Like, there's billions of memes. It has nothing to do with the
Scumbag
fact that he's
Steve.
Greek.
remember
Scumbag Steve.
You remember him?
My God, Pokemon's girl. Like, these people are white. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're white. And just like that has nothing to do with the fact that Sandwich by Gordon Ramsay, the sandwiches of bread. There's
That's
just
one
so
of my
many.
favorites.
I don't know how much more we need to read about this girl. Displays of emotion stereotyped as excessive, so happy, so sassy, so ghetto. So what's wrong with being so happy or so sassy? So ghetto. Like, what do you mean by ghetto, writer or critic or whoever you are? Like, what do you mean by that? Do you mean black people as ghetto, or do you mean what the rest of us mean, which is like trashy and like wild and poor, that sort of stuff? Because I can show you some people from where I grew up that aren't black that are trashy. So what do you mean by that? And this is a lot of the time the problem is that when people have something to say about, you can't call somebody gay, or you can't call them an R word, let's say, since it's still the beginning of the video, first 10 minutes of the video. If you say something like that and you're offended by that, then I would ask you, what does that word make you think of in order to take offense to it? Because when something gets called gay, 99% of people don't think of, homosexual or lesbian people. They think of, more of an old-timey version of something weird or uncool. It has nothing to do with the sexuality of the person. And that's like something that the new generation of reporters and stuff have tried to eliminate from society. Like, well, what's the problem with being gay? Anderson Cooper said one time. Nobody has a problem with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. They create these problems that never existed so that they can narrow the scope of language and control it more and more. And that's what they're doing here. Rarely are black characters afforded subtle traits or feelings. They're saying, like, what are you talking about? You're analyzing memes here.
Well,
it's like analyzing a cartoon.
Well, what's funny about this is, we know for a fact now that their entire control, their entire regime is based around manipulating the language. So when they take a word and bastardize it to where it has no more meaning, you're just supposed to accept that. But when a word like gay gets, its meaning gets turned around, they pretend that, you know what I mean? So if an eighth grader, back in my day, you would run around saying whatever, that's gay, or, whatever, from many years ago, right? But so when a word like that has its meaning turned around and it doesn't mean what it originally meant, then they don't care. You see what I'm saying? So when they change the definition of a word, you have to accept it. But when it gets changed by, millennials back when they were in 8th grade, then that doesn't, we're not accepting that change. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Indeed. And I just want to point out the rest of this article gets worse. They're saying that blackface never ended. Minstrel shows are thrown in there.
Did you
It's
pass
like
the part where it says why it's wrong? I saw that little headline like why is
blackface isn't easy. Girl, I don't see. I'm not
yeah.
familiar with that because I don't talk about transgender people in my day to day life. Some may have posted a video of Sweet Brown saying, "Oh Lord Jesus of fire," just for the laughs. Why overthink it? Yes, stop there. Stop writing there.
That would have been enough. Okay.
Why give people another excuse for labeling white people racists for the most innocuous behaviors? Again, you could stop right there. But critics say, when a person says something like critics say or people are outraged or something like that without giving a specific example of a person who is notable for their opinion and why you should, think their opinion is notable, that's because that's the writer's opinion. I'll be writing something sometimes, and this you probably come across this too, Eric, where you're writing something and maybe you sort of know that people are talking about this. We could go to Pride Night. You can say, people are talking about it or the internet is talking about it. Like, you sort of need some sort of evidence. You either need to link through articles to show like people who have a large reach are talking about this, or you need to have an example, a quote or something. But when people say critics say without giving any source here, then it's usually just the reporter's opinion. And I would wager, Eric, that if you had someone like me or you and somebody asked like, well, you're biased in your opinion, and I'd be like, yeah, I am, for sure. I have opinions on this. Whereas someone from CNN would probably just be like, no, but I do think this is labeled opinion. So we can, like, I don't know why it says analysis by. So I don't know why it's not just like I have, or like,
Well,
I think digital blackface is wrong.
the bottom line here is it's all completely airdropped, right? It's all completely fake. Nobody, literally nobody. You can't look. Are you going to go to? You couldn't even go to San Francisco or the most hipster part of Brooklyn and find a black person who was mad that a white person shared a meme. It's not real. It's just not real. It's the same thing like when Joe Biden said, "Oh, I'm going to free the weed smokers." How many people were freed off that? Zero, because it wasn't real. It's all completely fake. We're gonna clear your student loans. It's all fake. It's all completely airdropped. Every single thing, not every single thing they do is fake, right? They
Mhm.
are unfortunately, mutilating children. But I digress. That's a completely different story. This is all. It's look, bro. This is insanity. Okay, they are now, and I prove to you, and you can Google it if you like or DuckDuckGo, but we're recycling the story from years ago. We
Well, I
already
want to
did
see what
this.
the other people say. Like Wired, why would you take, like, just because it's digital? That's the only reason it's on Wired. Otherwise, why would you be looking towards a computer magazine for cultural, like
And
racial
why?
context?
Why is it that we do not address
Cover of our September issue.
the woman
God,
face? There's quite literal woman face, right? I
yes, and
mean, Dylan Mulvaney and
they made
Jeffrey Marsh.
a com-
Wow, I didn't
I'm a
realize this was.
computer nerd, and I want to pick up my Wired magazine to learn about what the best PCs are, graphics card, all
And
this
look
stuff.
at
And
this
you pick it up.
cover. This
It's
cover is
digital
racist
blackface.
with the
Yes.
gold chains on it. Like that's supposed to be a rapper or something. You're the ones, guys. You are the ones putting.
God,
Look,
this is such garbage. Somebody in the comments, Nathan Bro says, "Are you guys taking questions from the comments? We'll take questions from super chats because we're capitalists. Otherwise, you're
well,
free to
now I'm
say whatever you
curious.
want."
What's the question? I'm curious.
Nathan the Bro, great
Can't
name.
can't guarantee I'll answer it, but I'm genuinely curious now as to what the question is.
Another topic of du jour is March Madness. Before we went on, I just finished watching a game between San Diego State, I believe it was, and Creighton. Horrible ending. Refs robbed the end of the game. They call a foul on the last shot. The guy only makes one, so it's a 1 point game. They throw it down the court. It gets tipped out of bounds. Clearly, at least 0.2 seconds on the clock, or 0.3. They end the game with nothing because they're too cowardly to make a decision here. And that's where I'm at right now. But in the women's March Madness tournament, which we're all watching, I'm sure.
Maybe this is an unauthorized opinion,
No.
but you can't. I can't get into college. I mean, how do you get into college basketball if you're not gambling? It's just
I'm gambling.
yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the only
How
way.
dare you know that?
That's the only way. Otherwise, it's uneventful.
Because I wanted to watch the Raptors playoffs run. They're only in ninth, but the NBA is a stupid play-in. Well, it's not that stupid, but that's the only reason why they're in the mix. But then they go and they can't even stand behind saying that only women can get pregnant. So I just can't support this anymore. There's the NHL so far gone. I wish it wasn't. The NBA is pretty far gone. I was willing to give them a choice. I'm not completely gone from it yet. I'm still playing the video game. But between the UFC and college basketball right now, and then maybe baseball when it comes around, if I'll put it on sometimes. I have other things I can do, Eric, other than support this nonsense. So I guess there's not much madness going on in women's basketball. There could be if this keeps up. Memphis's Jamira Shoots charged with assault for allegedly pudging BGSU. We all know the school BGSU. Let's take a guess to what that is. Do you know what it is?
No, I read this story and I don't even remember.
Let's take our guesses. BG. I'm going to go with Baptist Georgia Southern University.
I don't know. Like I said,
You
I
don't even wanna
literally.
take a guess.
Well, I read this and I still don't remember.
Bowling
Bowling
Green.
Green.
What's
Bowling
the S
Green.
stand for?
State. Yeah.
All right, so this girl attacked somebody. I don't think it was that violent. Let's take a look.
What happened here at the end? Going through the line, Alyssa Brett had something to say there with Jamira Shoots, and Shoots was the one who stopped to say something there, and then Shoots hit Brett in the face.
Let's watch that again.
Shoots was the one who stopped to say something there, and then Shoots hit Brett in the face.
So the arm was already extended from what I could see. So it couldn't have been that bad.
There's got to be another camera in that building. Oh,
It was
okay?
Yeah, it was after the game though, so there's probably usually not people watching from that from cameras at that sort of thing because nobody's watching anyways. The Bowling Green State University Police Department issued a press release confirming that Shoots, a fifth-year player, so she's hanging around, was charged after the unwarranted physical incident. After their victory, and there she is being held by multiple women there who are on the team, they work for the team. Unwarranted physical incident after the WNIT home game. Bowling Green State University Police Department has charged a member of the women's basketball team with assault. Eric, do you think this is necessary? Basically the question I'd like to pose here is, do you charge a person with this when it's after the handshake? Because they said because it happened after the game, it is no longer part of the game and therefore is a civil disorder, situation.
I think so. Only because it goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyways. If those roles were reversed, that the white girl would certainly be facing charges. She would be kicked out of school. She would be lambasted. She wouldn't be able to get a job. She'd have to flee the country. So yeah. And the reason I read the article yesterday or maybe Friday, I forget, was because I thought they were going to give a little background to it, like, oh, there was a hard foul in the third quarter, or NCAA, I think they only play 2 halves, huh? Anyways,
Correct.
there was a hard foul, or they were going to give a little bit of, they were going to try to justify it basically, and I was going to maybe sort of understand what brought that on, but you didn't get any of that. And I looked for it. I read a couple articles, and there's not even, from what I could find, and I will admit I didn't do a crazy deep dive. I just looked at a couple articles hoping to find in the 10th minute of the second half, the other girl tripped her, or something that would have maybe given us a little bit of reason for this, but I couldn't find it. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. But I guess my point is, unfortunately, we are at a point in time where you have to punish this. Otherwise, I mean, look, we already know that if you play ball with the establishment, if you parrot the narrative to the talking points, you can do anything. I mean, you could literally burn, loot, a Foot Locker. You can go smash and grab at the Gucci store. You could do anything. But if you make a point against, if you stand up to one of their agendas, one of their talking points, then they will get you. So it sounds terrible, but it's just like you can't let this continue, otherwise it will. And we both know who's going to get away with it and who's going to be burnt at the stake, as it were. And look, that white girl wouldn't she would have to, she could get, here's what happens. Is they poke the bear over and over and over and over again. So that girl would have to take 100 hits before it would be acceptable for her to swing back. So yes, they need to punish that girl so she knows she can't get away with this. And like I said, if the roles were reversed, that woman would be in court right now.
It would be an international incident for sure in the news about, racism, of course. I hear what you're saying, and of course, that much I believe to be true. In a perfect world, in a vacuum, I think no. I'm forced to be reminded of hockey, of course, due to being in Canada. And way back in the day, there's this giant guy named Zdeno Chara. He's Slovakian. He's 6'9", and he pushed a guy into the boards where the bench meets the glass. So there's a court. Obviously, the bench doesn't have glass in front of it because they got to jump over there and everything. Bench meets the glass, and there's this big pole there. It's padded. Guy gets pushed into it, gets knocked out. French people in Quebec, because it's a Montreal Canadiens versus Boston Bruins game, huge rivalry. French people call the police. This happens during the game. French people call the police. They call the police. He hurt our guy. No charges are laid. It's just, a rough hit that puts a person in hospital. However, different things happened for different players, and I think that's the line I'd go with. There's a threshold. There's a time where somebody swung a stick at a guy's head and knocked him out, and then there's a time where somebody grabbed a guy by the back of the neck and shoved him into the ice and broke his neck. Nobody died in these situations, but careers were ruined. Now, the guy who got the stick to the head was a known scumbag in the league, but he was also hit by a scumbag, so there's that. And the second guy who broke the guy's neck, you could see on his face for the rest of his career that he was broken by it. So I think there should be a threshold. If this is in a normal situation where we're not in this political climate, and we can just judge things for how they are and how they happen, I don't think this is worthy of anything other than maybe like a 1-game suspension, because it's in the tournament. You can't be punching people after the game. Suspend her for the next game.
Well, she lost. They lost. So,
so we'll then give her 5 games at the start of next season. But then
she's in her 5th year already.
Yeah,
so
it's hard to punish her. I guess maybe this is the only thing left. But I don't know. You got to figure out a way to punish her in some way. But maybe this is why she did it, because she knows she's never coming back. But I think she would have to do something worse than that, like beat on her a bit more. A hand wash to the face, as it were. I don't know how close I can get. Is not worthy of a literal crime, in my opinion. Because how many sports like basketball, NBA, hockey, football, tons of stuff happens after the final whistle goes off, and there's never any criminal charges about it.
Yeah, but do you think, okay, she's charged with assault, right? Mm-hmm. But do you think for one split second that she's gonna, there's not gonna be any real consequence. It's gonna be a little pain in the ass for a couple of weeks. She's gonna have to go to court or something. And then what's gonna happen? They're gonna say, do 2 hours of nothing's gonna happen to her.
Nothing may happen, but do you really just want something on your criminal record like that?
I just don't see it. Look, I'm not saying they should throw the book at her and put her in jail, but it's even with these charges that they have quote unquote brought against her, she's not gonna. There's not gonna be any real consequence. We've already been through it. She's a 5th year. They lost the game. This is the end of the. She can't. A 1-game suspension isn't gonna do it. I don't know how long are you even allowed to play. Can she just keep failing and play 6-7 years in the women's NCAA? There's no.
Maybe she's on her way to the dub.
Yeah, she's probably not. And look, as bad as this sounds, she's gonna be more. She's gonna probably write a book or have a podcast or something. She's gonna be more popular than she ever could have been on her basketball skills alone. That's a fact. Same thing with Brittany Griner. Nobody was talking about Brittany Griner. We were making fun of her for not being able to dunk before she got stuck in a Russian prison. And she comes back, and now she's a hero. So yeah, you might have had a rough couple of months, but nobody was talking about you. Now they all are, and you should be thanking your lucky stars that you got that notoriety that you wouldn't have had. I mean, we all saw the clip. I don't know if you want to bring it up just for humor's sake of her trying to dunk during an ESPN softball interview. Like, no, not in a game, not in practice, just her on the court with one reporter, and she can't look. I think Brittany Griner. I don't know how I got off track a little bit here. My point is, these people are not going to face any consequences, and she is now going to be more famous than she ever could be based on her basketball
Well,
skills.
yeah, maybe that's why she did it too, Eric. Maybe she's like, my career's over here. I got to make a name for myself. I would respect that more. Maybe she should have came out with something like maybe she should have, used some sort of branded blunt object. A Powerade bottle or something, or
Like she
body
could
armor.
go the Tanya Harding route, like Galooly.
Crowbar? That's too far.
Okay.
How did Tanya Harding lift the crowbar? They're heavy. How did she? Those are
No, she didn't do
skaters.
it.
Oh, right. It was the masked person. Simpsons did this though.
Galooly.
Brittany Griner is being used by somebody else for for the purpose of this article to draw attention to something that's completely stupid. But before we get to that, uopod.com is where you will see all of our links. You've got previews of Spotify and YouTube. We're on Apple, we're on iHeartRadio, we're on Google, Amazon, and YouTube, of course. You can also follow our links there. We're both looking very professional with glasses on in these photos. So please leave us a review on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, or Amazon. There's so many these days. I'm glad we're on all of them. Or share our Twitter, YouTube, or Getter feeds. We appreciate you all. It is growing. We've got ads on Spotify. They're doing well. We'll have more. The YouTube channel is gaining traction now, thanks to our witty commentary and what have you. But let's get to Brittany Griner's teammate, who calls out hypocrisy, says the comeback, brought to you by MSN.com, as I mentioned earlier. Throat is on fire right now. I should have eaten pizza at like noon. Brianna Turner, a teammate of WN, so this isn't even about Brittany Griner. They just use it because they can't. Nobody's going to click on it otherwise.
That is correct.
The Phoenix Mercury,
but hey,
made
I will say,
by Leo and Danny.
I will
LA
say though,
Sparks.
I did actually click this because I thought it was going to be. I'm not joking because I could not care any less about Brittany Griner, but I thought it was going to be, as the kids say, based. I thought she was going to call out when it said. I was more interested in the term hypocrisy. I was like, oh, is she going to call out some WNBA hypocrisy? Is she going to what's she going to, who's she going to go after? And then I was
Brianna Turner's this one.
Oh, really? I thought she was the one in the middle, to be honest with you. Don't know. Doesn't matter. Nobody knows.
That's Shea Petty, actually.
Literally nobody. I mean,
Don't get it wrong.
Looks like the one on the right might be kind of cute, I guess. I don't know.
Unbelievable. First digital blackface, now digital misogyny. So you got baited by Kevin Harris, is what it sounds like to me. So basically, Brittany Griner's teammate says, I haven't faced any challenges in equality in sports. With the participation of
she says that
women,
she has faced.
Oh, I have faced many challenges. No, you haven't. You play in a women's sport. What's she goes on to, I'll read this, but the participation of transgender women and girls in women's sports is not true. So they go on to say about how they weren't treated equally in 2021 NCAA tournament. Female athletes were treated much differently. Yes, because they make the NCAA billions of dollars a year, whereas the women's tournament makes them literal millions of dollars a year, if that. I don't know. I'm going off the soccer and the general statistics of the WNBA makes no money and has to be propped up by the NBA. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that the guys who bring in hundreds of millions of dollars per year per school are going to get access to a lot of different crap because of how much money they make, Eric, and you want them to perform well, so you give them facilities to practice in. If I go in there, Eric, and I'm getting pretend upset here, if I go in there, Eric, and I'm just cater to me, give me access to all these facilities, and I'm a nobody, they're going to be like, how do you help us? But if I go there and I'm Leonardo DiCaprio or I don't know, who's another famous person, George Clooney, and they're just like, hey, you can help us promote our brands and make us a lot of money. They're going to be like, sure, you can come in and walk in wherever you want and do stuff because you're going to help us make money. the sad thing is the only way that people are paying attention to the women's tournament is if a girl in her 5th year who's not going to play anymore after she lost punches another girl in the face. So that's where I think it should be fairly obvious.
Yeah, but it gets worse, as I'm sure you know. I mean, not only are they she talking about like, oh well, we didn't get well, you of course, and here's of course you don't get the
Receive
same
less
thing
food.
for all the reasons that you said, right? Obviously, they don't get the same thing because they don't bring in the same amount of money. But my thing is also, this is a little bit off track here, but stick with me. You might be able to get a little bit more of an audience. You might be able to get a little bit more of a fan base. They are so adamantly against lowering the rim. Okay. You already play with a different size ball. The 3-point line is closer. What would be the problem with lowering the rim a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting? But no,
I don't know.
her answer is to bring men into the league, which would undoubtedly make it more interesting.
It's so funny. It's just like because there's so much focus on it, they can't say that it has to be made easier. I think that's the only reason. If this was not the focus and this was 10 years ago and they're like, what can we do? They would probably say okay to that. But the problem also is they've been practicing their whole lives with it at 10 feet. Obviously, it would change the culture. But if the idea is to grow the game and grow attention for it, then yes, that would be the thing to do. I've heard suggestion of 8 feet. I think 9 is enough. You can expect because a lot of these girls who can dunk are barely making it.
You
They're
said a
barely
lot.
making the dunks.
A lot of
I
these
said
girls that can dunk.
a lot of the girls of the ones that can dunk. Okay, so yeah, all of the girls that can dunk, you're right. All of the girls in the WNBA that can dunk can barely dunk. That that is true. So by lowering that, not only will you be making it easier for them to do better dunks, which is more exciting, you'll also have a new, you know, echelon or level of girls who will be able to dunk at the, at least in the very slightest. So I think that would help. Of course, I don't think they're going to do it because it admits that they have to make it easier to compete. But what she says here is very interesting. Also, the men even receive outside sponsors for catering that were not extended to a women's team. What do you not understand about why these people want to sponsor them? What don't you understand about this? It's time for full screen. What don't we understand about why the men's team has more sponsorships? What don't we understand about this? You know where I bet you the women have more sponsorships? Beach volleyball, gymnastics. I don't know what else. Beach volleyball. But what don't we understand about more money equals more sponsorship and better treatment? I don't understand. If you just take gender out of it and you look at the statistics and the heights and the verticals and how many dunks and how far away the shots are and the scores in the games, if you were just look at it on paper, you'd be like, okay, these players are better. That's why they get better sponsorships. But we can't. We have to. It's like there's one field where we can't force the whole equity thing because it all extends to performance and people are paying attention. They can do it in the government. They can do it in so many other sectors because people aren't focused on the outcomes. They're not focused on the performance markers. Where in sports, that's the only thing that's focused on. You can't say, well, it's an amazing team and we'll just ignore that they lost 70 games last year out of 82 and they didn't win anything. But it's an amazing team and you should go see them. And therefore, let's bring in more of this and that. It's the only place where they can't force it. They can force language. They can force participation in certain things. But in sports, they can't do it. And they try so, so hard. They can't force men to care about something sports related. They just can't do it. And they can get them to, wear these pride hockey jersey warm-ups for 99% of people. They can get them to kneel before the game or at the very start of the game because, it's cucked soccer. But in terms of the actual sports, they can't actually force this stuff in there because it'll become painfully obvious. And if she gets what she wants and she gets a LeBrona or Joanna man, or we take one of these players that have gone overseas, we got your Sean Livingstons out there, maybe. We got your Jimmer Fredettes out there who went to China as well. You want to bring them into the WNBA? You want to bring the professor in who's 41 years old or something now? We're going to learn really quickly where these women
I didn't
stand.
realize a professor was that old. I mean, 41's not
Well,
old.
think about
but,
the
like,
fact that he came in like the early 2000s.
I mean,
And he was like 18. He was like the young guy.
Okay, fair enough. Well, look, obviously, these women, and you can watch. I've watched several YouTube videos on this. They literally operate in a completely false reality, right? They're so off base to the point where I forget the lady's name who said it's not that we want the same amount as the men, it's we want the same percentage. And then when you do the paperwork, you realize that they actually get a higher percentage or something crazy like that.
Yes.
So
they get paid more than they deserve.
yeah, exactly. So they're completely out of touch with reality. And what this woman is saying is just, I mean, it's just give. I mean, it's like it's very childish. They go, well, the boys got more food, bro. They're a foot taller than you. They weigh 100 pounds more than you. They dunk the basketball, right? So that's worth more. That's worth an extra cheeseburger right there. Okay, lady, give me a break. It's absolute insanity. And then to top it all off, what's happening now? Okay, here. To top it all off, she is so out of touch with reality that she wants men to play in the league. Be careful what you ask for, lady. Give me a break. Like, do you really think for one split second you could put Dwayne Wade's little weirdo son daughter thing, and he's gonna be look, that man, Dwayne Wade's son, daughter, whatever, is, I would be willing to bet, more athletic than 90% of the women on this team, just by the own. I mean, Dwayne Wade was an absolute specimen, NBA champion, right? Like, as creepy as he is, and his weird old Hollywood wife, as despicable as they are, nobody's going to deny the fact that that man was a world-class athlete, and his son, his genes are going to be more, are going to make that kid more athletic than 99% of women. And does this woman really think that it's going to be beneficial for her that they start letting men into that league? I mean, sure, I guess, like I said, it might make it actually watchable, but then before you know it, why not just, you know what? You guys should just, like, I'm just coming up with this right now, is maybe they should do something with the NBA where they, play a 10-minute game at halftime, right? Nobody's watching this stuff. And this idea comes from when I was a little kid and I went to Golden State Warriors basketball camp, and they used to let us play a little game at halftime. That's what they should do. You go out there for 10 or 15 minutes, and then that's how you get the eyeballs, and you can, that's it. Like, nobody's really taking this seriously, except for one YouTuber noted that the fan base of the WNBA is old guys, and mostly, I don't know. You'd have to watch the video and see where he does his research, but it's old guys, not in a creepy way, but just like guys who like fundamental basketball, layups and mid-range jumpers. And I can totally understand that. Me personally, I'd rather watch Ja Morant dunk on somebody and Steph Curry shoot it from half court. That's just me. So this lady, I mean, bro, they are operating in a completely false reality. Like, none of it's real, and they honestly think that, oh, well, they got more food. What are you talking about, lady? Give it a rest. They got more Yes, of course they got more sponsorships, right? Look, last thing. If you commanded the respect that if you actually earned the respect that you're commanding, they wouldn't have to put Brittany Griner's teammate in the title. They would have said your name, right? Because nobody knows and nobody cares. And nobody would care about Brittany Griner if she didn't spend 9 months in a Russian prison. It's just the facts. Sorry.
Well, I think I found it. Bleacher Report. I think they deaded their link to use poor English, but I think this is it.
Dunk Force here live.
Classic. This is an absolute classic.
We'll give her another shot. Hang on, just one second. We'll give her another shot.
I like how she hangs on the rim.
I think I can touch the bottom of the net. All right, give us a good one. Here it comes. Brittany Griner.
Give us a good one.
Oh, tie the shoes. And he says he has to.
The shoes. Yeah. Get them all ready. It's like back in the day with the deep.
I don't think I could touch the bottom of the net.
Pump them up a little bit, right? Yeah.
Good job, Brett.
It's just so strange.
And that's with a smaller ball. That's with a smaller ball.
It is a lot of pretend playing. That's what's going on here. And I don't know if there's anything else worth talking about this other person says. dozens of states across the country, including Texas, were working on banning kids. I mean, you and I both know that if a guy comes into the, let's say it's an average sized guy, maybe it's the professor. Let's use his as an example. Let's throw him under the bus, even though I love the guy. He's got millions of YouTube subscribers. He can afford it. Love you, Professor. If he comes into the WNBA, they're going to attack him. They're going to threaten him in the locker room. They're going to, say, what do you think you're doing here? If he starts breaking ankles and, doing uncontested layups after he bops it off the person's forehead, they're going to threaten him. He's only like 5'11 to 6'1". I'm not sure how tall he is. And it's just not going to fly. They can say that they don't have a problem with it, but they wouldn't have a problem with it if the person isn't dominating the league. And I just want one guy who doesn't make a lot of money in the NBA, or he gets cut and maybe he doesn't even make the G League.
Scalabrini.
He used to do that show where he played against random people who called him out. Brian Scalabrini, we need you in the WNBA. Who else could it be? I don't know. There could be plenty of people.
Look,
Del Curry come out of retirement. I don't know. Somebody like that.
Let me just, okay. When I was playing basketball at the gym when I was living in South Dakota, there was like some semi-pro or like some G League team there, and they were playing against high school kids, okay? I'm talking about like good basketball players, and they will never set foot on an NBA court, but would school 90% of the rest of the population. Like the level of play at the NBA is when is the last time you tried to shoot an NBA length 3-pointer? Honest question.
Not since I was in college playing basketball.
An NBA length, not a
yeah,
not
I
a
know,
college
but
it's
we
far.
know the distance. It's pretty far, yeah.
Yeah, and so anybody who's pretending like, look, okay, I'm all over the place here, but that article is just so outlandish because not only is she pretending that they should just get everything like the men, but at the end of it, she's literally saying the solution to it, basically, or not the solution, but of all the inequalities. So that's the hypocrisy she's calling out. All of the inequalities that the women WNBA players face, but transgender is not one of them. Transgenders coming into sports is not one of them. And at this point, I'd want to see it happen, right? I mean, you'd have to act like eventually you want this woman to get what she's asking for and get a taste of her own medicine. So yeah, let's bring in the professor. We can bring in any of those guys, high school kids, semi-pro players from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and they would wipe the floor with those women, guaranteed.
The thing is, though, is what they'll end up doing, Eric, is the first person that does this will be a person who claims to be transgender, and it'll be a guy who sucks, who just completely sucks at basketball, and he sucks so bad that he'll be, mediocre in the WNBA, and he'll only be 6 feet tall, or he won't be that tall at all.
Whoa! 6 feet's pretty tall. That's not.
Yeah, for us, but not for. I don't know what the tallest girl in the WNBA is. 6'6" or something. Brittany Griner isn't she?
I think she's actually taller than that, but yeah.
My point is, they'll bring in somebody who can't actually play and be like, "See, there's no difference."
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what they will do. But and this also goes without saying, just like the college girl punching the white girl, and if those roles were reversed, we will be burning cities down right now. And this goes
Dwight Howard.
This too goes without saying. But why are we not seeing it to where women are transitioning into men and joining the NBA? How come that's not happening?
Oh, it's gonna happen.
Okay.
What did I see? Oh, right. It's the dumbest thing ever. But there is if you didn't know, there's an international tag competition. There's a tag league. It's basically parkour. And I saw yesterday that there was a girl on one of the teams, and I was just like, why would you do this? Like, I've seen the clips on YouTube, and I've never seen a girl in it. And it's just like, there had to be one team that just has a girl in it, and she never plays.
That's stupid. It's like adult kickball leagues or something, and they try to like bring back these old. I don't understand.
If people think we hate women, we don't.
No. Well, I don't.
Well, what, Eric? Huh?
No.
Blackface?
No. I don't hate women. Right. In fact, the exact opposite. Now, I will say, I do get a little peeved, a little frustrated with the men pretending to be women. That's a
Well,
little
yeah,
bit
the thing is it's trying to protect women is what this is, and keeping the men out of the sports. And that's why it's sad to what, like, men try to help women so much with this topic, and then 99% of them, they either don't say anything or they support it. There was I think it was another cycling competition. I can't
skateboarding.
remember.
It happened like fairly recently in skateboarding as well, where the little girl lost, like a little teenage skate
Yeah.
prodigy, and she was like, "It's okay." Like, all right.
Well, there was this podium photo where it was three people
That
and
was South
transgender
Park. That was a South
person.
Park episode.
No, not the Randy Savage one, but recently there was the guy who's in first and the girls in second and third place were happy. And it's just like, men can only try to help you so much. And then it's just basically, if you want this, then it's going to be your own downfall. So a
You know what
poll
I
I've
do
posted
like
a few
about this?
times, of should men help women or should women do this on their own? Both times it's men should help women. But at what point, like, if the women don't want your help, isn't it like sexist to just try to help women where the help is not wanted? Or is it, the right thing to do
The
to
help,
help
no,
women?
the help is wanted. They just don't want to say they need it. Right? They do. They want it, but they don't want to say they need it because they have been scared into submission by the cancel mob and the weirdo extremists. So they can't. I mean, like those girls you see on the Whatever podcast, right? Like I see where you're coming from, but I'm just, not in. I don't feel comfortable talk. I don't feel comfortable saying the chick with her cans out, with her boobs out all over the place, flopping around,
Which
and
they
she's like,
all
well,
are.
well, I don't feel comfortable saying like, lady, you're a woman. We can see, we can tell, but you're afraid
Well,
to say it. And this, you know what I really like about this, or I don't know if I love it or if I hate it. This is basically all the things that were jokes in 2004, they're pretending is real now, right? Like all the sketches, Joanna Man, Dave Chappelle, and the Black White Supremacist. I mean, all of these things that were completely laughable, they were hilarious jokes in 2005, are now things that we're supposed to be taking seriously. This is how far we've come.
well, there's this what was I gonna say that just happened? I don't remember. Something about I don't know anymore. It was something about the Joanna Man sort of stuff. But we were talking last week about the affordable housing and how that's really a myth. It was based off of this guy in San Francisco destroying a traffic light with his bare feet. And we've got this video. Where's Pix 11 News? What city is this from?
That's New York, yeah.
Okay, so this is from New York, and the caption is, "I've gone up to buildings, landlords, management teams in my scrubs, and they look at me and they smile and engage. They're nice. Once we get to the income part, and I say vouchers, everything changes." And Eric, this is going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy as to why people aren't accepting this. But let's go ahead and watch.
Ready, willing, and able to move into a better apartment closer to her job in Washington Heights, and has been for years. But things have yet to work out.
I've never had a chance.
Susan, a trained nurse, says things tend to go south pretty quickly when the conversation turns to how she intends to pay the rent.
Once we get to the income part and I say voucher, everything changes. It's either hostility, humiliation.
It's a racist last name she's got. But what does this mean? Explain this to me. We don't have vouchers in Canada. What does this mean? Where is the voucher from? What does it do?
Yeah, it's something you get from the city, so they'll pay a portion of your rent, right? And they have these weird stipulations where new developments, and it might have changed. I haven't been there in 3, I left New York in 2020, but they used to call them 80-20 buildings, where 20% of the building had to be affordable, and 80% could be at market rate. So you're looking at an average. Back then, it was like $4,000. Now it's like over $5,000 for a regular 1-bedroom apartment. So they used to have these 80-20 deals where 20% of the building had to be affordable housing, and they do raffles. So anybody can enter a raffle and you can get an affordable house, or you can sign. You can do all this sort of paperwork and you get these vouchers that comes from the city. But the vouchers, look, I used to work in on-site leasing. Okay, so I used to sit luxury leasing. I mean, we used to have, rappers and actors. Shout out Michael K. Williams, who used to live next door to one of the buildings I worked at. Neither here nor there. These vouchers come from the city, and it is a It's a blatant red flag. Now, look, they're going to tell you it's illegal to deny vouchers, but obviously there's ways around it. And look, I don't want to be a jerk about it, but 98 out of 100 times when you have somebody who's going to use vouchers, you're going to have a problem on your hands. Whether it's paying the rent, whether it's something else, it just is what it is, bro. Like, why does anybody play by the rules? Why does anybody come up with 250,000? They have to prove they make $250,000 a year, right? You can't just say it. You have to prove it if you want to live there. But these people show up with vouchers, and you're just supposed to because once they get in the building, and this is the reason it's a little bit complicated, but you have to make 40 times the rent to rent an apartment in New York, unless you want to have a cosigner or 40 times. In most other cities, it's like 2 or 3 times. So if the rent
crazy. If it's only 2,000, you need to make 80,000.
Yes, it's crazy. It's absolute insanity. But why is it like that? Because it's impossible to get rid of people. So they make it very difficult to get in because they know once you are in, the tenant can do no wrong. You could have to stop short of burning down the entire building. They can't get rid of you. So when you let somebody with vouchers in, you know that if they miss 1 month, that's it. They're not going to catch up. It's over. And you also know that if they're getting vouchers, this woman's a nurse, right? So I don't know how much. You got to be making at least $60,000 a year as a nurse. I don't know what it's really like out there. But we also saw another article from Bloomberg, I believe, where they said making $100,000 in New York feels like making $36,000 in almost any other city. So this was just crazy because, we had that conversation about affordable housing. And this is part of the reason. It doesn't work. They're trying to force landlords. They're trying to force private owners to accept somebody. And they just don't want to do it. So they can say it's illegal for you to reject somebody with a voucher. But there are a million other reasons that you can look. You can say, I've been rejected from an apartment. I made enough money. I had decent credit at the time. Wasn't great. It's better now than it was then. But they rejected me from the apartment. And they didn't even tell me why. Now, I don't want to go down the route of, I'm not going to be on my Kanye shit, but they didn't want me there. Okay. All right. I'll leave it at that, which is fine. Which is fine. They're more than entitled to that. But when this woman comes up and look, bro, again, I don't want to be like a mean guy, but they picked this nice looking little like Latino woman. Like, I'm telling you, most people that show up with vouchers they're not working a 40-hour a week nursing job. I promise you that. So maybe it's a little bad for this woman. Maybe it's a little unfair for her. But guess what? Life's not fair. I promise you, most of the people showing up with those vouchers are not on the level, bro. It just is what it is. Because once you got the vouchers, you also got the SNAP, you got the EBT, you got all this stuff. The government's paying for everything. You are siphoning. You are going to be a problem. It just is what it is.
Let's see what else the video is, and then I got some things to say about them government troops.
Embarrassment, disrespect.
Susan's is not an isolated case. The nonprofit Unlock NYC has been tracking reports of housing discrimination and documented some 1,500 cases over the last 2 years alone. Its map tells the story. Tenants reporting being discriminated against because they are holding vouchers in every corner of the city. Unlock NYC's head of data and advocacy says some rental listings even state no city vouchers.
That's totally illegal. It really feels like the city's caging in on voucher holders. They have fewer and fewer neighborhoods where they can go.
A spokesperson for the mayor adds the administration recently earmarked $3.1 million for outsourcing additional landlord investigations, in addition to staffing up the City Commission on Human Rights for more city enforcement and more direct city-to-landlord intervention. We spoke with the CEO of Avenues Real Estate, which has previously been cited by Unlock NYC for alleged housing discrimination.
There's zero reasons you can come up with for a broker to say no for a voucher tenant. Unfortunately, the broker is in a situation where the landlord tells them, in some cases, keep bringing those vouchers to me and you will not have my business.
But a broker's hardship is no consolation for prospective renter Susan Negron.
We're human beings. We're not animals. And we want a chance. We want a chance to make a living.
So here's the problem I see with all this, Eric. Nobody owes you anything because you're a human being is the thing. So I want to touch on quickly both sides of this story. This woman, the person side. should things be affordable for you? Yes, of course. Do you have the right to that? No, of course. If things are too expensive in New York City, you're a nurse, you can move. I wish I could move about freely in the United States like a citizen of the US can. If you're a liberal and you're afraid of losing your liberal values, you can go to many, many other states, some of them much warmer than the United States and less congested, where nurses are needed. If you want, Washington State, Colorado is not necessarily super liberal. It's cold, but it's also, you're not going to be bothered by Republicans in Colorado. And it's very liberal there. You could go to Austin, Texas is liberal within a red state. You can go to California. You can go to all these different places where nurses will be needed. You'll have much more income. It's just you want to be cool and live in New York. So I don't have any sympathy for that angle of living in New York, not being able to afford it when you can move somewhere else. I'd like to know what the reason is. If the reason is you don't want to be moved out of your city, then this is the government's problem to change this. Now, on the government side, as much as I think, oh, boo-hoo, I can't afford it, it's not my fault. There is a problem with the government here. And it's the same thing that happens in Canada. They don't want to address the root of the problem. They want to give these vouchers so that they're still using taxpayer money. And like they said, they've allocated another $3 million into investigations. Now there's more investigators who are paid with taxpayer money. It sounds like a business. They'll do anything, but lessen the amount of people coming into the city. They'll do anything but that. And that's a huge problem here too. The government will do anything other than address the root problem, which is too many people. I don't care where they're coming from. If they're coming from other states, other countries, I don't care if they're Finnish, South African, Australian, Japanese, wherever they're coming from. There's too many people in these city centers. There's too many people in my entire province. There's too many people in New York. And the last thing people want to do is for some reason stop this gigantic wave of people from coming in. It has nothing to do with what they look like or where they're from. What it has to do with if there being too many people in New York, and the housing prices are skyrocketed. So if you're this person, you need to teach them a lesson, and you need to say, I don't want your business anymore, business of New York or state of New York, corporation of whichever building complex this is. I don't want your business. You need to hurt these businesses financially by taking your business elsewhere. So if it's too expensive there, you need to go somewhere where it's not expensive. If it's difficult to do that, I understand it. It's difficult for me to leave where I am because it's hard to save up money to go somewhere else. But if you truly, truly, truly can't survive there, then you just have to leave. You just have to, because the government's not going to do anything to help you other than make their bottom line fatter, which is what they're doing in New York.
Well, they
want to keep bringing in. Yeah, they want to keep bringing people in so that they can get more tax dollars. And this is a common talking point, even amongst establishment conservatives who say, we have a declining population. We need to keep bringing people in. And my answer is why? Why do we need to bring people in? Now, one of the answers is declining population. The government needs to grow the economy. Another argument is the government needs to grow the economy in order to keep people paying into their retirement plans and their healthcare plans. The government has the money. They're taking it from you anyways. The government has the money to send $100 billion to Ukraine. How many people are we going to lose out on from tax dollar wise if we cut the immigration in half to these cities, or send them to places that aren't populated? So what's her name here? Susan Negron can afford an apartment in New York. Send them to the middle of nowhere in the Arizona desert. Send them to the middle of nowhere in the Nevada desert. Send them to the Pacific Northwest amongst the trees. Send these people to create a new city where things will be affordable, and then other people can move there as well. But they don't want to do this. What they want to do is they want to cram people into their place where they need the most voters, or they want more tax money. That's all they're doing. There's no excuse, and there's no politicians out there who are elected who are saying, what would stop the prices of housing from going up so much? Less people. But they don't. They just cram more people in, and they build townhouses that are terrible and somewhat easier to afford, but they're disgusting because only certain people can afford houses at this time, and they don't want to actually do anything that's going to end in them having less money.
Well, think about for a second the New York City government, or even the New York State government, basically forcing landlords, private, building owners to accept somebody. That's crazy to me, right? Like, how can you say you have to accept this person, right? The landlord,
exactly.
the landlord knows that they need to make money. They need to pay the mortgage. They need to keep the building up. They don't want to let the building sit empty, but they have to get somebody who's going to be able to pay the astronomical amount. And for the government to come in and say, you have to accept these people with the money that we gave them made out of your tax dollars is absolutely ridiculous. And another thing to your point about the housing, and I've noticed it, I actually just know, I mean, I've seen after living in Arizona for over a year now, I noticed that, and I can't draw a straight line to this, but I think about being home in California, San Francisco, Oakland, and living in New York. When you see construction go up, when you see scaffolding, when you see construction workers and stuff, that's it. That stuff is going to be, you're looking at years of scaffolding, years of red tape, years of construction workers and guys walking around on the roof and teamsters taking lunch outside the building. But in Arizona, I'm seeing buildings go up, I mean, in 6 or 8 weeks, bro. It's crazy. And I don't know if it's just less red tape. I don't know if it's less, government overreach, but that's part of it. That's another reason why prices are so sky high. It's because places like San Francisco wrap every single thing up in red tape. New York does the same thing. And these construction sites last for years. My building, when I lived in Flatbush, Brooklyn, had scaffolding on it. They were repainting the building, or I don't even know what they were doing. That thing was up there for more than a year, right? So it just they let these things drag on, and that adds to the cost of living. These weirdo, union construction workers are kind of like the teachers union. It's all completely corrupt. But here in Arizona, I'm literally astonished, and that's what caught my eye just the other day. I drove past a place I drove a couple months ago, and the building was up. Its sign was in front, grand opening. Boom, this thing's ready. That would be years in California or New York. There was another story a couple years back of some guy who was starting I forget what kind of business he was starting. I'd have to do a little bit of research, but he was basically trying to get permits to start his business in California, and it was taking him 2-3 years. He went to Texas, he got it done in 6 months, and that's what's happening, and that's adding to the reason why everything costs so much in these states.
Well, to your point about forcing the landlords, you're exactly right. Like, people want to make money, and when everything else goes up, inflation and everything, prices here are still going up for food. It's insane. Like, they're really just running us through the ringer. The government's not going to help you, no matter if you're a landlord or you're a person. So they're going to, as long as they're not the ones taking the hit, then prices are going to keep going up.
They're never going to take the hit. The house always wins.
So they want person X to pay $3,000 a month for rent, and then they want landlord to pay this much in property taxes. And then the people who defend the government are like, oh, who's going to pay into your 401k, or who's going to pay into your health care in Canada? And it's like, if there's less people, then there'll be less people on the line. Like, you can't tell me like the only option you have in a country is to continuously explode the population year over year. It just doesn't work. Like, you can't just say there's no other way out other than having there was 1 million people added in Canada last year, 1/40th or higher of the population every year.
Asylum seekers, they are here legally. These are asylum seekers.
It doesn't make any sense. You can't just say you have to, like, you've been taking in people for so long, and the native population declines, of course. But, like, you can take a break from it and see how things go. Your society's not going to collapse. There's all these things people don't want to try, but they're happy to keep spiraling the drain. Well, houses prices are going up. Nobody can afford rent. Nobody can buy a house, and food prices are going up. Crime's going up. But we can't stop bringing in 500,000 people a year. What are you, crazy?
Yeah, well, I mean,
we can't try that.
You're giving them the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, you're pretending that they're trying to stop it, but no, it's on purpose. So that's why it's happening.
So you either got to move, and you got to hurt these people's businesses and their policies, is what I'm trying to say. Is you got to expose their policies for what they are and go to a place where it's better, or the government has to do something with their policies, which they don't seem to want to do on any side of the coin. And I can't help but think of Greg Abbott on Tucker Carlson when Tucker asked him, why can't you just stop things from happening at the border? And he just couldn't answer that. He's the governor. He has the power. He could just shut down the point of entry. You could just put more people on the border.
Yeah, but he's in a wheelchair. I can't really do anything. Yeah.
You can't. They just won't. They just won't do it for some reason because they like having more money to spend so they can look better and they can make more money and give themselves raises. Anything else, Eric, as we go over here?
No, I think that's it. I didn't know if we had another. Yeah, I guess we've gone a little long here, so I didn't know if there was another story, which maybe we'll get to next week. Or, I mean, then obviously the news cycle, 24-hour news cycle, we're going to have a million stories between, now and next Sunday. So
Yeah, I know.
Can't say that, but obviously buy my book. That's it.
Weather's getting warmer for you, Eric. 11 degrees Celsius, so that's probably I don't know what that is. It's warm. It's warmish. It's fall weather right now. We're getting into the spring weather. There's no more snow. It's getting warmer and warmer. I think you'll be fine.
All right.
Until next time, everybody.
Turn it up, Jordan.